Hello and welcome to Illuminated Minds TV, where literature becomes easy to understand, enjoyable to study, and impossible to forget. If you are preparing for examinations like WAEC, NECO, JAMB, GCE, or even literature in the university courses, or if you are simply interested in African literature, today's lesson is for you. Today, we shall take an in-depth look at one of the most powerful poems in African literature called Abiku by Wole Soyinka. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the background of the poem, the meaning of Abiku, a stanza by stanza explanation, even major themes, literary devices, symbolism, tone and mood, the significance of the poem, and even possible examination questions. So if you're ready for it, let's dive right into the video. Now, let us briefly talk about the author, the poet of this particular poem. Wole Soyinka is one of Africa's greatest literary figures. Born in Nigeria in the year 1934, he is a playwright, a novelist, an essayist, poet, and social critic. In 1986, he became the first African to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. So Soyinka's writing often explore African traditions, politics, religion, colonialism, identity, freedom, death, and spiritual relationship between the physical and the supernatural world. His works combine traditional Yoruba beliefs with modern literary techniques. Abiku is one of his most celebrated poems because it vividly portrays a traditional African belief that many people outside Africa may not understand. Now, let us talk about the background of the poem. Before understanding the poem, you must first understand the meaning of the word Abiku. So among the Yoruba people of Nigeria, Abiku is believed to be a spirit child. According to this belief, some children are born repeatedly to the same mother only to die in infancy and return again through another birth. So these children are believed to belong to a group of spirits living in another world. Whenever they are born, they do not intend to stay permanently in the human world. Instead, they eventually die and return to their spirit companions. And this cycle continues repeatedly. This constant birth and death bring unbearable sorrow to parents. Family often become emotionally exhausted because every time they begin to love the child dies. Traditional healers sometimes performed rituals or sacred the body of the dead child so that if the child returned again, it could be recognized. Parents also gave unusual names meant to persuade the child to stay alive. This belief forms the foundation of Soyinka's poem. However, Wole Soyinka goes beyond merely explaining the belief. Instead of presenting the story of the parent perspective, it gives the Abikus itself a voice. The spirit child speaks directly. This makes the poem unique and psychologically powerful. Now, let me quickly summarize the poem. The poem presents the Abiku speaking confidently about its supernatural identity. So the child declares that it belongs to a mysterious group of spirits who constantly calls it back. Although the parents try everything possible to make the child remain alive, including sacrifices, prayers, fears, charms, and even rituals, the Abiku insists that none of this effort can stop its return. The spirit child knows the parent's pain. It knows the mother's endless tears. It knows the father's hope. It even knows the ritual performed to keep it alive. Yet, the Abiku child refuses to remain. Throughout the poem, the Abiku reminds everyone that it belongs to another world. Its loyalty is to its spirit companions rather than its earthly family. The poem therefore becomes a tragic conversation between life and death. Now, let us talk about the analysis of the poem. One remarkable feature of this poem is that the speaker is not the grieving mother. Neither is it the father. The speaker is the Abiku itself. Immediately, this changes our understanding. Rather than begging for sympathy, the Abiku speaks with confidence and authority. It is almost proud of its ability to live wherever it wishes. The spirit child introduces itself as someone who has existed before birth. Death does not frighten it because death is merely a journey home. Unlike ordinary humans, who fear dying, the Abiku considers death as a return to familiar companions. So this creates dynamic irony. While the parents celebrate every birth with hope, the child already knows that its stay will be temporary. Throughout the poem, there is a constant conflict between two worlds. The physical world represents parents, love, family, and hope. The spirit world represents destiny. It represents supernatural power and eternal companionship. The Abiku belongs to both worlds, but is emotionally attached to neither the parent nor the earth. Instead, it remains loyal to its invisible companion. One striking aspect of the poem is the fertility of human efforts. The parents cry, they pray, in fact, they perform sacrifices, they seek traditional medicine, they consult spiritual leaders, yet nothing changes the child's decision. So, Wole Soyinka therefore raises a philosophical question. Can human beings truly control destiny? The poem suggests that there are forces beyond human understanding. Now, let's talk about the psychological dimension of the poem. Because beyond traditional belief, the poem can also be understood psychologically. What am I saying? Imagine a mother who loses a child after child. Each pregnancy brings hope. Each funeral brings deeper pain. Eventually, grief becomes part of her identity. So Soyinka captures this emotional cycle perfectly. The repeated birth creates repeated hope. The repeated death creates repeated heartbreaks as well. So this endless emotional cycle becomes one of the poem's greatest tragedies. And as a matter of fact, the poem also has a religious dimension. So the poem also reflects African spirituality, unlike Western ideas that, sharply separate life and death. Traditional African religion often views both worlds as interconnected. The living, the unborn, the ancestors are seen as existing within one continuous spiritual reality. So the Abiku moves freely between two worlds. The movement emphasizes the closeness between the visible and the invisible realms. Now let us go right into the themes of this poem. Number one theme is life and death. This is a central theme. The poem shows that life and death are not complete opposites. For the Abiku, death is merely another journey. Birth is temporal to it, and death is expected. The child experiences both repeatedly. Number two is destiny. No matter what the parents do, the Abiku follows its predicted path, which is death and being reborn again, and death and reborn again. And number three will be suffering. Why? The suffering of the father and the mother, their constant agony. That is another theme in the poem. Number four will be supernatural beliefs. Their traditional ways, their traditional religion, the concoctions they try to prepare, the sacrifices they try to make. These are all under supernatural beliefs. And number five will be conflict between two worlds. That is the spirit world and the physical world. That is the world where the child is being loved and by the parents, by the father, and then the spiritual world, which is the spirit world. You understand? And another striking point is actually the human helplessness, which would be the number six. Human helplessness. The parents actually try everything possible for them to do, but still all their efforts seem futile. And the next theme that we can also find in the poem will be love and attachments. The parents love the child so deeply and they just want the child to stay. All they just want is that the child will stay. Briefly, let us talk about some of the characters that can be found in the poem. Yes, of course, there are characters in it. We have dramatic poetry. And the first and prominent one will be the Abiku. So Abiku is a mysterious, confident, fearless, stubborn, supernatural, and even emotionally detached. So it understands human suffering, but refuses to change its decision. It speaks almost like someone who possesses complete knowledge of both worlds. Another character will be the parent. The parent never speaks directly, however, through the Abiku's words, we understand them as loving, hopeful, persistent, and deeply sorrowful. They symbolizes humanity's struggle against forces beyond human control. And the other character that we can begin to talk about with them be the spirit companions. These are unseen beings constantly call the Abiku home, although invisible. They influence every decision made by the spirit child. So let us talk about the literary devices. Number one will be personification. Number two will be symbolism. Number three will be imagery. Talk about the repetition, about the metaphor, talk about the irony and the allusion. So I am going to give this to you to actually sort out. So in the comment section, I want you to develop a short note on each of these things. I want you to explain it. I want you to explain these literary devices for me, and I will check it. I will tell you whether or not you are correct. I will take my time to go through every single thing that you send. I also want you to talk about the tone and the mood of the poem. So if you are preparing for an exam on this particular poem, let me give you some of the things that you should actually focus on. Number 1, the Yoruba belief about spirit children. Number 2, talk about the conflict between the spiritual and the physical world. Number 3, the repeated cycle between birth and death. Number 4, talk about the helplessness of the parent. 5, talk about the major themes. Number 6, talk about literary devices. Number 7, talk about the symbolism. Number 8, talk about the tone and the mood. And lastly, talk about the character and the significance of the character itself, which is the Abiku, its significance, the importance. Talk about it. So I really want to thank you for watching this video. I want you to subscribe to Illuminated Minds YouTube channel. We drop content like this that is actually going to help you so much for your examination preparation and everything that you needed to know when it comes to literature, and even how to pass your examinations and study tips. Thank you so much. My name is Ayonide Samson Oluwatobiloba, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.